Viva Chile, viva Chile, a Chile quiero, chileno yo soy.
We welcome you to Red Hot Chile, this very interesting edition. If you're watching on YouTube, you notice that we're right here on the beach. And if you're listening on the radio show without the video portion, obviously you're hearing behind me the waves crashing against the rocks. It's got a lot of marine layer today here, this April 15th. That's a really bad day for some of you, I realize, and I'll remind you that we don't have April 15th here in Chile because we don't have to necessarily file or declare taxes, and those who do declare taxes sometime in April, can be any day. It takes them about 10 to 30 minutes, if that, or you just pay a guy $100 and he'll do all sorts of stuff for you. An accountant gladly will do it for you if you want to bother trying to get the refund. The great majority of Chileans, at least the ones that I know that are employed, even work for themselves, don't have to in any way file or declare their taxes at all. The people who end up doing it, might get a few $100s back, and therefore they bother with it. But for many people, it's just the delight of not having to declare taxes is a great feeling. But anyway, we're here on the beach. You can see the way you can hear at least the waves breaking and the rocks behind us in Reñaca Beach, the northern part of Viña del Mar. It's a cold, very clammy kind of day. It's not really that cold, I guess. What do we figure it was? About 58 degrees Fahrenheit, 14.5 centigrade. That's what it said on my car thermometer. And I would say it's probably about right. It's good weather to have a vest sweater on and a long sleeve shirt. No one's on the beach to speak of. I'm sure they think it's kind of strange passers-by looking in and seeing this guy sitting out on the beach with his producer, Joe, who's helping today, once again, with the production of things. Well, at any rate, the big news of the week in Chile is what we want to talk about. We want to make sure that people understand what's happened with this Valparaíso fire and maybe how they still help. There will certainly be a lot of aid flowing in during the week and probably afterwards a bit. It's been a tremendous tragedy here in Chile to see the fire. And of course, if you were damaged by the fire, in any way affected by it, it's even worse. Here from the northern part of Viña del Mar, Reñaca, we could see the smoke rising last week. And as I recall, there was a Friday blog that I put up, and I took some pictures down on Reñaca Beach. You can go to the blog at EscapeAmericaNow.Info. Read the blog on Reñaca Beach in April, and the beautiful walk I was having that day, taking some pictures down here at the same beach, but there was no overcast. And I noticed some smoke rising. I thought, well, there's a fire going on over there. It turned out to be this mega fire. Still don't know how it was started. The original theory was, well, maybe there were some people burning some grass and it got out of control out in the rural section behind Valparaíso, which is just across the bay from us here. And the camera might get swung around at some point so you can show you where Valparaíso would be. But the problem is you can barely even see a building over there reflecting with this fog and marine layer. So Joe, if you want, go ahead and flip the camera around anytime. We'll do whatever's convenient. If it's not convenient, we'll do it later. But it may have been started from that. Later on, like today, in the morning of the Tuesday morning, the 15th, they had an announcement that maybe some birds hit some electrical wires and that sparked the fire. Sounds pretty like a long shot to me. Maybe they're just trying to deflect the guilt of some arsonist or something. I don't know. Maybe that's actually what happened. But they think they pinpointed the spot where the fire started. Well, it spread rapidly with the winds getting up to 30 kilometers per hour, and it wasn't that windy here up in this part of Viña, but apparently the canyons up there just drew a lot of wind, and boy, it just whipped up that fire. Heat rose, of course, too, and the humidity was down below 30% apparently, and the famous triangle of 30-30-30, between the heat and the wind and the humidity, created just optimal conditions for the thing to spark. And it did so. So 2,500 homes, at least, that's the estimate right now, have been burned down to the ground. Probably the early estimates were about 8,500 people homeless. Now it's looking like we have about 11,000 people homeless. Remember, Valparaíso as a city in this metro area has about 320,000 people in total. And so the people who live up that high are typically very poor people. Some lower middle class, perhaps lower middle class, and just devastating for them. And what makes matters worse is since this has been happening, the news has been spreading, looters have moved in. You think of looters sometimes going down to shops and people that actually have valuable goods and not just ripping off other poor people. But that's what's actually been happening. They've been going and ripping off the roofing material or anything they can find. There are people who've been able to salvage some goods from their home. In one case, there was some children's school supplies left out, and somebody just came by and ripped those off. There was a news story about that. So it's tragic. It's sad to see, but looting happens in every part of the world. It's not just in Chile where it goes on, but it's been happening in Valparaíso. So the police have pretty much sealed off, and the military's around. We saw some people, which is unusual today, some military men in fatigues down there with looked like M16s or AK-47s. I didn't get a close look at the gun, but they were down there and making sure the things were distributed apparently, and nobody was robbing the vaccines for tetanus. A lot of helpers were flown in, and a lot of things were going on, a lot of movement in the area with people trying to get aid to these poor people. The problem we have here in Chile, remember, the class system, it's hard for a poor person to rent a place. So they may have lived in these shanties or these low quality homes. For them to now move somewhere is difficult. They don't have checking accounts or bank accounts at all. And I'd say 85% of Chileans don't have a bank account. And so they don't have necessarily anything saved unless it was in their pocket. It's all burned. So it's a real tragedy. It's something that we have to be very cautious to thinking about. It's up in many other places in the first world you don't normally have this kind of poverty being affected, or being part of the problem here. So they don't have any place to go. And imagine here the supply of homes for rent it's not that great. So I mean, an injection of 2,500, 3,000 families all of a sudden need a place to live. That's pretty tough. Where are they going to go? Many of them are going to friends and families that aren't affected by the fire. Obviously, that's some great help. But they need to be close enough where they can get to work, get on the bus, and find a place to get to their job. The government's trying to move in and declare, special exemptions for them to everything from filing their any kind of business taxes that would be due up to other aids. Trying to find beds. The government put up 90 beds in Valparaíso, which doesn't come even come close to 1% of the need, but still it's something. There's a great deal of distribution of food going on from the government and private needs. The government's calling on the churches to help us. Remember, there's no institutionalized welfare state in Chile. So we were able to go down, the producer and I took a donation from a listener and supporter here at Freedom Orchard and libertarianism in general in Chile. And we dropped off with in a sector down in the center of town, in Sotomayor Plaza, where a collection of goods was going on. We also saw there was some collection, sign up at the Union Church, the Presbyterian Church, the first evangelical church in Chile, down in that area, where they told a certain collegio or high school you could go and drop off their goods. You're listening to Red Hot Chile on the Overseas Radio Network. We'll be back after this break to talk more about this topic and others.